Ambassador Velthar stepped off his gleaming ship onto the landing platform. His forearms moved with practiced grace as he adjusted his ceremonial robes. The blue patterns on his skin glowed brighter when he felt important, and today they were almost blinding. He was here to deliver the Council's message to another primitive world. Earth looked ordinary from space. One yellow sun, a few rocky planets, and this blue-green world covered in water and clouds. Nothing special. The locals called themselves humans, and they had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Babies, really, compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. The human delegation waited for him in a simple concrete building. No gold decorations, no floating platforms, no energy shields, just gray walls and basic furniture. Velthar almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "Greetings," said the human woman at the front of the group. She was small and pale, with strange hair the color of dried grass. "I am Secretary Chen. Welcome to Earth." Velthar activated his translation device and spoke in his most official voice. "I am Ambassador Velthar of the Zephyrian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Council. I bring an important message for your species." The humans sat quietly. No gasping, no falling to their knees, no begging for mercy. Strange. Most species knew enough to be afraid when the Council came calling. "The Galactic Council has watched your people for several years now," Velthar continued. "We have seen your progress, your expansion to nearby star systems, your growing influence in this region of space. The Council has decided it is time to welcome humanity into the galactic community." Secretary Chen nodded politely. "That sounds interesting. Please continue." Velthar pulled out his datapad and began reading the standard offer. He had given this speech hundreds of times to dozens of different species. The words came easily. "The Council offers humanity protection and guidance as you develop. In exchange, your world will contribute 60% of its natural resources to the galactic economy. You will accept Council oversight of your government and military forces. Your expansion will be limited to systems approved by the Council. In return, you will have peace and prosperity under our protection." The humans looked at each other. Some whispered quietly. Secretary Chen wrote something on a piece of paper with an actual pen. Velthar had not seen anyone use physical writing tools in centuries. "What happens if we decline this offer?" asked another human, an older man with gray hair. Velthar's skin patterns brightened with amusement. This was always the best part. "Decline? Young species, you do not understand. This is not an offer to be declined. This is the natural order of the galaxy. The strong guide the weak. The advanced protect the primitive. The Council has been doing this for over 2,000 years. But what if we said no anyway?" The gray-haired human insisted. Velthar sighed. Some species needed the lesson spelled out for them. Then the Council would be forced to take stronger action. Orbital bombardment of your major cities. Destruction of your space fleet. Occupation of your world. Relocation of your population to planets where you can be properly supervised. But why would you choose such a path when cooperation offers so much more? The humans were quiet for a long time. They passed notes back and forth, had whispered conversations, and checked devices that looked incredibly primitive to Velthar's eyes. Finally, Secretary Chen stood up. "Thank you for explaining the situation to us, Ambassador. We need time to discuss this with our governments. How long do we have to make our decision?" 3 standard galactic cycles, Velthar replied. "That is approximately 18 of your months. More than generous for such a simple choice. We understand. We will contact you with our answer." Velthar left Earth feeling satisfied. The humans seemed reasonable enough, a bit slow to understand their situation, but they would come around. They always did. In 18 months he would return to accept their surrender and begin the integration process. 3 weeks later, his communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Velthar smiled as he opened it. The humans had probably spent a few days panicking and decided to accept the Council's protection early. Smart move. The message was surprisingly short, too. Ambassador Velthar and the Galactic Council. From Earth United Government. Subject: response to Council ultimatum, no Secretary Chen. Velthar stared at the message for several minutes. His skin patterns dimmed to almost nothing. This had to be a translation error. He ran the message through 17 different language systems. They all came back with the same result. No. He sent a reply immediately. Perhaps there was a misunderstanding. To clarify, The Council requires your submission to our authority and surrender of 60% of your planetary resources. Failure to comply will result in military action against your world. Please confirm your acceptance. The human response came back within hours. We understood your message perfectly. Our answer remains unchanged. No. Velthar called an emergency meeting with the other Council ambassadors. They gathered in the crystal chamber on the space station orbiting Kepler Prime, their various forms of alien life filling the curved seats that accommodated everything from gas-breathing Nephilim to the rock-like Krugar. Fellow ambassadors, Velthar began, his skin patterns flickering with confusion. I have encountered something unprecedented. The humans of Earth have refused our standard integration offer. Ambassador Krexthul of the Dominion leaned forward, her insect-like mandibles clicking with amusement. Refused? You mean they requested modifications to the terms? No, they simply said no. They refused to negotiate at all. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Torthgen of the Stone Empire rumbled through his translator. In 400 years of service, I have never heard of such a thing. Are you certain they understood? I explained everything clearly. The benefits of cooperation, the consequences of resistance. They acknowledged understanding both and still refused. Ambassador Yilseth of the Mind Collective spoke up, her telepathic voice echoing in everyone's thoughts. Perhaps they are more primitive than we assessed. Their brains may not be capable of processing the concept of inevitable defeat. Or, suggested Ambassador Velron of the Trade Federation, they are insane. Some species develop mental instabilities when they discover faster-than-light travel. The shock of learning they are not alone in the universe can cause civilizational madness. Velthar activated the chamber's main display and showed them Earth's response messages. The assembled ambassadors studied the words with growing disbelief. This is most irregular, admitted Council leader Zarthek, an ancient being whose species had founded the Council millennia ago. In all our history, only 3 species have initially refused our integration offer. All 3 accepted after we demonstrated our superior firepower. What do you recommend, Council leader? Asked Velthar. Send the demonstration fleet. Destroy one of their outer colonies or space stations. Nothing too severe. Just enough to help them understand their situation. Once they see what our weapons can do, they will become more reasonable. The other ambassadors agreed. A small demonstration would solve the problem quickly. Admiral Krektos received orders to take a squadron to human space and destroy one military target. Just enough to show the humans what they were dealing with. As the meeting ended, Velthar felt confident again. His skin patterns returned to their normal brightness. Soon the humans would join the other 200-plus species under Council protection. This small delay would be forgotten within a year. The demonstration fleet departed 3 days later. Velthar expected to receive news of human surrender within the week. Instead, 18 months passed in complete silence. When the deadline finally arrived, Velthar found himself staring at Earth's final message. Our answer has not changed. Do not contact us again unless you wish to negotiate. For the first time in his long career, Ambassador Velthar felt afraid. Admiral Krektos had commanded fleets for over 60 years. His massive form filled the captain's chair on the bridge of the Council warship Eternal Judgment. 24 other ships followed behind him as they approached the human solar system. Status report. He growled through his translator. His species communicated mainly through low-frequency vibrations, but the translation software made his voice sound like distant thunder. Long-range sensors show the system ahead. Admiral, reported Navigator Zilthi, 1 yellow star, 8 planets, standard configuration. The 3rd planet appears to be the human homeworld. Krektos nodded. This should be simple. Destroy a human space station or military outpost. Maybe one of their primitive ships if they had any nearby. The humans would panic, realize they were outmatched and surrender immediately. Then he could go home and file his report. Take us into the system. Scan for targets. The fleet moved forward at standard approach speed. As they passed the outer planets, sensor operator Velkim began to look confused. Her antenna-like appendages twitched nervously. Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual readings. Specify. The 4th planet from the star shows signs of extensive mining operations. The asteroid belt between the 4th and 5th planets has been, well, it's mostly gone, and there are artificial structures around the gas giants that I can't identify. Krektos leaned forward. Show me. The main screen lit up with tactical displays. What Velkim had found made no sense. Mars, the fourth planet, was covered with mining equipment and industrial facilities. The asteroid belt looked like someone had been harvesting rocks for months. Around Jupiter and Saturn, strange geometric shapes floated in space. "How long did you say these humans have had space travel?" Krektos asked. 50 years, Admiral. They only achieved faster-than-light capability recently. Then how did they build all this? It would take centuries to establish mining operations on this scale. Navigator Zilthi spoke up from her station. "Admiral, I'm detecting movement near the third planet's moon. Multiple contacts heading our way. Put them on screen." The display changed to show a dozen human ships approaching their fleet. They were strange-looking vessels, all angles and flat surfaces instead of the smooth curves most civilizations preferred. They looked crude, almost primitive, but they were moving faster than anything should be able to move in normal space. "Hail them," Krektos ordered. Communications Officer Thylak worked at his console for several minutes. "No response, Admiral. They're ignoring our signals. Try all standard frequencies. Universal peace codes, emergency channels, nothing, sir. They're not even acknowledging our presence." The human ships took up positions around Krektos' fleet. They made no threatening moves, but they didn't leave either. They just watched. "Admiral," Velkim called out, "I'm trying to scan their ships, but I'm getting interference. It looks like electromagnetic noise, but the patterns are too regular to be natural." "What kind of interference?" "It's like they're broadcasting static on the exact frequencies our sensors use." "But that should be impossible. They would need to know our sensor technology to do that." Krektos felt the first hint of unease. The humans were supposed to be primitive. They shouldn't know anything about Council technology. Hell, they shouldn't even know the Council existed until 18 months ago. "Take us deeper into the system. Find me a target for the demonstration." As the fleet moved toward the inner planets, more strange things became apparent. The human homeworld's moon was covered with what looked like defensive installations. Orbital platforms surrounded Earth itself. Most disturbing of all, there were human ships everywhere. Not just the few dozen they should have had, but hundreds of them. "Admiral," Navigator Zilthi said quietly, "how many ships did our intelligence say the humans possessed?" The last report estimated 30 to 40 vessels total. All primitive, no real weapons. "I'm counting over 300 ships in this system alone, and some of them are larger than our dreadnoughts." Krektos studied the tactical display. Something was very wrong here. Either their intelligence was completely mistaken, or the humans had been busy during the last 18 months. "There," he said, pointing to a small facility orbiting one of the outer moons. "That installation looks isolated. We'll destroy it as our demonstration. Weapons officer, target that station with plasma cannons. One full blast should be sufficient." Weapons officer Cordith worked his controls. "Target locked, Admiral. Firing." A brilliant beam of blue energy lanced out from the Eternal Judgment. Plasma cannons were devastating weapons capable of melting through any known armor. The beam struck the human station directly. Nothing happened. The energy simply disappeared into what looked like a shimmering field around the station. The installation didn't even seem to notice it had been attacked. "What the hell?" Krektos muttered. "Fire again. Full power." 3 more plasma blasts struck the station. The shimmering field absorbed them all without any visible effect. Then the station fired back. What came from the human installation wasn't an energy beam or plasma bolt. It was something physical. Moving so fast it barely registered on sensors. Whatever it was punched through the shields of the Council ship, righteous fury like they weren't even there. The projectile tore through the ship's armor, crossed the entire length of the vessel, and exited the other side. Righteous fury began venting atmosphere and spinning out of control. "Report," Krektos roared. "Hull breach on Righteous Fury." Thylak called out. "They're requesting immediate assistance."
"Engineering sections are completely destroyed. What did they hit us with?"
I don't know, Admiral. It wasn't energy. It was some kind of solid projectile, but moving at incredible velocity. Our computers can't even calculate how fast it was going." Krektos stared at the tactical display. A primitive human outpost had just crippled one of his ships with a single shot. The humans hadn't even tried to communicate during the attack. No warnings, no demands for surrender, no threats. They had simply fired back. More contacts appeared on the sensors. Human ships were approaching from multiple directions. Not rushing to attack, just moving into position, like they were surrounding the Council fleet. "Admiral," Velkim said nervously, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from multiple human vessels. Whatever weapons they're charging, they're much more powerful than what that station used. Krektos had been in dozens of battles during his career. He knew when a situation was going wrong, but this was different. This wasn't just going wrong, this was impossible. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be afraid. They were supposed to surrender when faced with superior council firepower. Instead, they had better technology than his ships did. All vessels, he announced over the fleet communications, withdraw to minimum safe distance. Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. Sir? Navigator Zilthi sounded confused. Are we retreating from primitives? Look at your sensors, Krektos growled. Do those look like primitives to you? As his fleet pulled back, the human ships didn't pursue. They just watched. Some of them were already turning away, apparently losing interest now that the council forces were leaving. The final insult came as Krektos's fleet reached the edge of the system. A single human ship approached Eternal Judgment and transmitted a message. Not words, but a simple data package containing detailed scans of every ship in the council fleet. Engine specifications, weapon systems, shield frequencies, crew complements, everything. The message was clear. We know exactly what you are and what you can do. For the first time in council history, a demonstration fleet retreated without completing its mission. As they jumped to hyperspace, Krektos wondered what kind of report he could possibly file that would make any sense. Behind them, the human ships returned to their regular patrol routes as if nothing had happened at all. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours. Council leader Zarthek sat at the center of the crystal chamber, while ambassadors from 12 species argued, demanded explanations, and tried to make sense of Admiral Krektos's impossible report. You're telling us, Ambassador Krexthul clicked through her mandibles, that a single human outpost destroyed one of our heavy cruisers? Admiral Krektos's massive form shifted uncomfortably in his reinforced chair. Not destroyed, crippled, but yes, with one shot. A solid projectile moving faster than our sensors could track properly. That's impossible, declared Ambassador Torthkin. No kinetic weapon can achieve those velocities. The energy requirements alone would be enormous. I saw the damage reports, Krektos replied. Whatever they fired went through our ship like it was made of paper. Ambassador Velthar had been quiet throughout most of the session, his skin patterns dim with worry. Now he spoke up. There's something else. We've been receiving reports from across the galaxy. Human ships have been spotted in 17 different star systems. The chamber fell silent. 17 systems? Council leader Zarthek's ancient voice carried a note of disbelief. In 18 months? That's impossible. It takes years to establish even basic outposts in new systems. Velthar activated the chamber's main display. A galactic map appeared showing known human activities. Red dots marked confirmed sightings. Yellow dots showed probable human presence, and green dots indicated new colonies or mining operations. The red dots represent direct visual confirmation of human vessels, Velthar explained. The yellow dots are systems where local governments have reported unknown ships matching human design. The green dots show systems where someone has begun large-scale mining or construction projects using unfamiliar technology. Ambassador Yilseth projected her telepathic voice into everyone's minds. This expansion rate is unprecedented. Even the Zephyrian Empire at its peak took decades to establish this many outposts. It gets worse, Velthar continued. The humans aren't just exploring randomly. Look at the pattern. The display changed to show travel routes between the marked systems. Lines connected the dots, revealing a strategic network of positions that surrounded several council member territories. They're building supply lines, Admiral Krektos observed, and staging areas. This isn't exploration, it's preparation. Ambassador Velron of the Trade Federation leaned forward. Preparation for what? I don't know, Velthar admitted. But 3 of our member worlds have reported human ships conducting detailed scans of their systems. Not hiding, not sneaking around, just flying through and scanning everything openly. When challenged, the humans ignore all communications and leave. What kind of scans? Asked Council Leader Zarthek. Military installations, planetary defenses, fleet positions. They're gathering intelligence on our capabilities. The chamber erupted in worried chatter as the implications sank in. Ambassador Krexthul's mandibles clicked rapidly as she spoke. Are you suggesting the humans are planning some kind of attack? I'm not suggesting anything. Velthar replied. I'm reporting what we've observed. The humans have expanded across 17 systems in 18 months, established military positions around our territories, and are conducting intelligence-gathering operations on our worlds. Draw your own conclusions. Ambassador Thykol of the Wanderer fleet had been studying the tactical display silently. Now he spoke up in his species' musical language. Has anyone considered that we might have made an error in our initial assessment of human capabilities? What do you mean? Asked Zarthek. We assumed they were primitive because they achieved faster-than-light travel recently. But what if we were wrong? What if they had the capability all along and only chose to reveal themselves 50 years ago? The suggestion sent a chill through the chamber. Species were classified by their technological development level. Faster-than-light travel was considered the marker of basic spacefaring civilization. Everything else, their weapons, their industrial capacity, their expansion rate, was estimated based on that assumption. Impossible, declared Torthgen. Our long-range surveys of their system showed a typical developing civilization. Agricultural societies, basic industry, primitive transportation. When was the last comprehensive survey of Earth conducted? Thykol asked. Silence. Anyone? When did we last get detailed intelligence on human capabilities? Ambassador Velthar checked his records. The last full survey was 73 years ago, before they supposedly developed faster-than-light travel, Thykol observed. So for all we know, everything we think we know about human technology is over 70 years out of date. The implications of this revelation settled over the assembly like a heavy weight. If their intelligence was that outdated, then every assumption about human capabilities could be wrong. There's more, Velthar said reluctantly. We've intercepted some human communications, and they know about us. Not just that we exist, but detailed information about our government structure, our military capabilities, even our individual member species' strengths and weaknesses. Ambassador Yilseth's telepathic voice carried alarm. How detailed? Velthar activated his data pad and began reading. This is from a transmission between two human commanders. The Zephyrian Empire relies heavily on energy weapons, but their ships have weak kinetic defenses. The Dominion's insect-like physiology makes them vulnerable to certain sonic frequencies. The Mind Collective's telepathic abilities are limited by distance and can be disrupted by electromagnetic interference. The chamber fell deadly quiet. They've been studying us, Krektos rumbled. While we assumed they were primitive, they were learning everything about our military capabilities. How long have they been gathering this intelligence? Asked Zarthek. Unknown, Velthar replied. But some of the information they have is classified at the highest levels. Details about our defensive systems that only Council military commanders should know. Ambassador Krexthol's skin turned a pale blue, the color of fear in her species. Are you suggesting they have spies in our governments? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what we found in their communications. The debate continued for hours, but no one could agree on what to do. Some wanted to send a larger fleet to force human compliance. Others suggested immediate negotiations. A few even proposed offering the humans full membership in the Council as equals. Council leader Zarthek finally called for order. We need more information before we make any decisions. I want intelligence gathered on human activities in all 17 systems. I want our best analysts studying their technology. And I want to know how they're getting classified Council information. As the session ended, Velthar remained behind to speak privately with Zarthek. Council leader, he said quietly, there's something else. Something I didn't want to announce publicly. Yes? 3 of our member worlds have requested permission to begin independent diplomatic contact with humanity. Zarthek's ancient eyes widened. Which worlds? The Calarian Republic, the Free Traders of Sigma Centauri, and the Crystalline Consortium. They're worried about being caught in the middle if this situation escalates. They want to negotiate separate peace agreements with the humans. For the first time in his 1,000-year lifespan, Council leader Zarthek felt the cold touch of fear. The Council had maintained order in the galaxy for millennia through strength and unity. But now faced with an unknown threat, that unity was beginning to crack. What do the humans want? He asked quietly. Velthar's skin patterns dimmed to almost nothing. That's just it, Council leader. We don't know. They haven't made any demands, issued any threats, or stated any goals. They're just out there, watching us, learning about us, and ignoring everything we say to them. That may be the most terrifying thing of all, Zarthek replied. Dr. Zethelin had spent 40 years studying alien technologies for the Council's Science Division. Her species, the Analytical Collective, were natural researchers with minds designed for complex problem-solving. She had decoded technologies from hundreds of different civilizations, but the human data fragments were unlike anything she had ever encountered. "Show me the files again," she said to her research assistant, Quintor. The laboratory's main screen displayed fragments of technical documents that Council intelligence had managed to intercept from human communications. Most of it was encrypted or corrupted, but what they had was enough to make any scientist question their understanding of physics. "This section here," Zethelin pointed with one of her forearms. "The humans refer to something called localized constant manipulation. What does that mean to you?" Quintor's three eyes studied the text carefully. "It sounds like they're suggesting the fundamental constants of physics can be changed in specific areas. But that's impossible. The electromagnetic constant, the strong nuclear force, gravity, these are fixed values throughout the universe." "That's what we've always believed," Zethelin agreed. "But look at these technical specifications for their weapons." The display changed to show what appeared to be blueprints for human military equipment. The designs made no sense according to known physics. Their projectile weapons show energy outputs that exceed the input power by factors of 10 or more, Zethelin explained. "Either they've discovered an unlimited energy source or they're doing something else entirely." She highlighted another section of the document. "And here, their defensive systems apparently work by selectively increasing electromagnetic binding strength in targeted materials. What would happen if you could increase the electromagnetic force that holds atoms together?" Quintor's eyes widened as he understood. "The material would become exponentially stronger, like turning soft metal into something harder than diamond." "Exactly. And if you could decrease that force, any armor would become as weak as paper," Quintor finished. "But Council Leader, this technology should be impossible. The fundamental forces aren't just numbers you can change. They're built into the structure of reality itself." Zethelin pulled up another file. "Look at this section about their faster-than-light travel. They don't use hyperspace tunnels like we do. They don't manipulate space-time directly. According to this, they temporarily reduce their ship's mass to near zero while maintaining its momentum. That would allow infinite acceleration with minimal energy input," Quintor observed. "But how do you change mass without changing the amount of matter?" "You change the Higgs field interaction in a localized area," Zethelin said quietly. "You alter the fundamental constant that gives particles their mass property." The two scientists stared at each other in stunned silence. If the humans had truly discovered how to manipulate the basic constants of physics, it would explain everything. Their impossible expansion rate, their superior technology, their casual dismissal of Council threats. "We need to see more data," Zethelin decided. "Contact Intelligence Division. Tell them we need every scrap of human technical information they can find." 3 days later, they had their answer. Intelligence had managed to decode a complete human technical manual, apparently a training document for their military engineers. What Zethelin read in that manual changed her understanding of what was possible. The humans didn't just manipulate one or two physical constants. They had mapped the relationships between all of them. They could create localized fields where gravity was stronger or weaker, where the speed of light was different, where nuclear forces were enhanced or reduced. Their entire technology was based on rewriting the rules of physics within small areas of space. "Council Leader," Zethelin said as she delivered her report to the emergency assembly, "we have discovered why human technology appears to violate known physical laws. They aren't violating them, they're changing them." The chamber filled with confused murmurs. Council Leader Zarthek leaned forward in his ancient chair. "Explain." "The humans have developed the ability to alter fundamental physical constants within localized fields. They can make gravity stronger or weaker, change the speed of light, modify nuclear forces, even adjust the properties that give particles their mass." Ambassador Velthar's skin patterns flickered with disbelief. "That's impossible. Physical constants are constant. They're the same everywhere in the universe." "We thought so too," Zethelin replied. "But consider the implications if we were wrong. If you could temporarily increase the strong nuclear force, Your fusion reactors would produce vastly more energy. If you could decrease electromagnetic binding in enemy armor while increasing it in your own, your weapons would be unstoppable while your defenses would be impenetrable. Admiral Krektos spoke up from his position. That would explain what happened to my fleet. Our plasma weapons rely on electromagnetic effects. If the humans could simply turn off those effects around their stations, the energy would have nowhere to go, Zethlin confirmed. It would dissipate harmlessly. Meanwhile, their kinetic weapons work by reducing the mass of their projectiles while maintaining momentum, allowing them to achieve impossible velocities with minimal energy input. The chamber erupted in alarmed discussion. Species that had considered themselves advanced suddenly realized they were using primitive technology compared to the humans. How long would it take our scientists to develop similar capabilities? Asked Council Leader Zarthek. Zethlin's response silenced the room. Based on our current understanding of physics, several thousand years, possibly never. The humans appear to have made fundamental discoveries about the nature of reality that we haven't even theorized. Ambassador Yilseth projected her telepathic voice with obvious distress. Are you saying they're that much more advanced than us? I'm saying they think differently than us, Zethlin replied. We've spent millennia learning to work within the laws of physics. The humans learned to rewrite those laws. It's not just a technological advantage. It's a completely different approach to understanding the universe. Ambassador Thykol asked the question everyone was thinking. If they have this capability, why haven't they simply conquered the galaxy already? Maybe, suggested Ambassador Velron quietly, because they don't want to. The implications of this statement hung in the air. If the humans could manipulate the fundamental forces of nature, then every council fleet, every planetary defense, every weapon system was essentially useless against them. The humans could have destroyed any council world whenever they wanted, but they hadn't. They're not interested in conquest, Council Leader Zarthek realized. They never were. They refused our ultimatum not because they were defiant, but because they genuinely didn't see us as a threat. Or as equals, added Admiral Krektos grimly. Dr. Zethlin pulled up the final section of her analysis. There's one more thing, Council Leader. According to their technical documents, the humans are already exploring other galaxies. They have ships operating in Andromeda, the Magellanic Clouds, and several other local galactic groups. While we've been worried about them taking over our territory, Velthar said slowly, they've been expanding beyond our entire galaxy. The chamber fell silent as the true scope of human capabilities became clear. The Council had been arguing over how to control a species that was already operating on a scale they couldn't even comprehend. What do we do now? Asked Ambassador Krexthul. Council Leader Zarthek looked around the chamber at the representatives of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. For the first time in his long life, he had no answer. I don't know, he admitted. I truly don't know. Admiral Gorthek commanded the largest fleet in Council history, 200 ships from every member civilization, carrying the most powerful weapons the galaxy had ever assembled. If the humans wanted to ignore the Council's authority, they would learn the price of such arrogance. Target acquired, announced Weapons Coordinator Velsith. Sol Star is in optimal range for the Omega Torpedo. The Omega Torpedo was the Council's ultimate weapon, designed to destabilize stellar cores and cause stars to collapse into neutron stars or black holes. It had never been used in actual warfare, only tested on uninhabited systems. The destruction of Earth's sun would send a message that even the humans couldn't ignore. Are we certain about this course of action? Asked Navigator Thrixon. Destroying an entire star system seems extreme. The humans have left us no choice, Gorthek replied. They've ignored every diplomatic contact, refused every offer, and dismissed every threat. Sometimes the only language primitives understand is overwhelming force. But Admiral, Thrixon persisted, the intelligence reports suggest they might not be as primitive as we believed. Gorthek's massive claws clicked against his command chair. I've read the reports, speculation and theories based on intercepted fragments. Even if the humans have developed some new technologies, they're still just one species on one world. We represent the combined military might of 12 civilizations. The fleet had been positioned outside the Sol system for 6 hours, gathering final intelligence and preparing for the attack. Long-range sensors showed normal human activity. Ships moving between planets, routine patrol patterns. No indication they were aware of the massive council force preparing to destroy their star. Omega torpedo armed and ready, Velsith reported. Shall I fire? Wait, said Intelligence Officer Kyle Moth. I'm detecting some kind of energy signature near the star. Something large. The main display switched to show the area around Sol. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then the sensors detected it. Something massive moving near the star's surface, hidden by the solar radiation. What is that? Gorthek demanded. Unknown, Admiral. It's approximately the size of a small moon, but it's artificial. The energy readings are significant. Could it be a weapon? Possibly. Or some kind of industrial facility. The energy output is enormous. Gorthek studied the display. Whatever the humans had built near their star, it was clearly advanced technology, but that didn't change the mission. Fire the Omega torpedo, the massive weapon launched from the flagship's main tube. It was the size of a small ship, packed with exotic matter designed to trigger stellar collapse. Once it reached the star's core, nothing could stop the chain reaction. The torpedo streaked toward Sol at faster than light speed, its trajectory locked onto the star's center. According to all calculations, it would reach its target in 17 minutes and trigger stellar collapse within hours. Instead, the torpedo simply vanished. Weapons report, Gorthek ordered. The torpedo has disappeared, Admiral. It was tracking normally, then it just stopped existing. Stopped existing? That's impossible. Check your sensors. I've run full diagnostics twice. The torpedo is gone. Not destroyed, not deflected, gone. Gorthek felt the first stirrings of unease. Could the humans have intercepted it somehow? To intercept an Omega torpedo at faster than light speed would require technology we've never even theorized, Kyle Moth reported. They would need to create some kind of localized space-time distortion to pull it out of hyperspace. Then where is it? The answer came 3 days later. Every Council homeworld received the same message at exactly the same moment. In orbit above their capital cities, something materialized. The missing Omega torpedo, but changed, modified, enhanced with technology that made Council sensors scream warnings about energy levels that shouldn't be possible. The weapons were clearly functional, clearly armed, and clearly under human control. With the torpedoes came a simple message broadcast on every frequency. Now you may negotiate. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and catastrophic. The unified Council fleet scattered as individual species recalled their ships to defend their homeworlds. Member governments demanded explanations, threatened to withdraw from the Council, and began frantically attempting to contact humanity directly. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Ambassador Velthar stood in what had once been the most powerful embassy in the galaxy. Now it felt like a tomb. His skin patterns had dimmed to almost nothing, reflecting his species' deepest shame. A human ship had arrived in orbit that morning. Not threatening, not making demands, just waiting. The message was clear. Someone from Earth wanted to talk. Velthar had requested the honor of conducting negotiations personally. It was, he felt, appropriate that the ambassador who had delivered the Council's ultimatum should be the one to hear humanity's terms. The human who materialized in the embassy's transport chamber was disappointingly ordinary. Female, middle-aged, wearing simple gray clothing with no decorations or rank insignia. She looked like any of billions of humans Velthar had seen in intelligence reports. Ambassador Velthar, she said politely. I'm Director Sarah Chen. We met 18 months ago. Velthar recognized her now, the woman who had said no to the Council's ultimatum. Director Chen, We appreciate your willingness to begin negotiations. Begin? Chen looked genuinely puzzled. Ambassador, we're not here to begin negotiations. We're here to inform you of how things will work from now on. What do you mean? Chen pulled out the same simple data pad she had used during their first meeting. The Galactic Council is dissolved effective immediately. Member worlds are free to form whatever alliances or governments they choose. But the old system of forced integration and resource extraction is over. Velthar's skin patterns flickered with confusion. Dissolved? You can't simply dissolve the Council. We've maintained galactic order for thousands of years. You've maintained galactic oppression for thousands of years, Chen corrected. 237 species forced into submission, their resources stolen, their development controlled. That ends now, but without the Council there will be chaos. Wars between species, territorial disputes, economic collapse. Chen's expression softened slightly. Ambassador, did you really think the only thing preventing galactic war was fear of your fleets? Most species in this galaxy are perfectly capable of peaceful coexistence when they're not being threatened and exploited. What about the humans? What do you want from all this? Want? Chen looked genuinely confused by the question. We don't want anything from you, Ambassador. We never did. That's why we said no to your ultimatum. Then why? Why the weapons in orbit above our worlds? Insurance, Chen replied simply. To make sure nobody tries to restart the old system. The weapons will remain in place for exactly 1 standard year. Then they'll be removed. That should be enough time for new governments to establish themselves. Velthar struggled to understand. And after that? What then? Then you're free to govern yourselves however you choose. If any species wants to trade with humanity, we're open to discussions. If you prefer to be left alone, that's fine too. The galaxy is big enough for everyone. But what about human expansion? Your colonies? Your territory? Chen smiled, the first genuine emotion Velthar had seen from her. Ambassador, we're not expanding into your galaxy to conquer it. We're just passing through on our way to more interesting places. More interesting places? There are billions of galaxies out there, Ambassador. Billions of civilizations we haven't met yet. Amazing technologies we haven't discovered. Wonders we can't even imagine. Why would we waste time fighting over one small region of space when there's an entire universe to explore? As Chen prepared to leave, Velthar asked one final question. Director, why did your people develop such advanced technology? What drives you to reach so far beyond your origins? Chen paused at the transport platform. Because we can, Ambassador. Because the universe is vast and full of mysteries, and we refuse to be limited by what other people think is possible. Your council spent thousands of years trying to control a few hundred worlds. We prefer to dream bigger. The transport beam activated and she was gone. Velthar stood alone in the empty embassy, staring out at the human ship in orbit. For the first time in his life, he wondered what it would be like to dream that big. Across the galaxy, former council worlds began the difficult process of rebuilding their civilizations as free species. Some thrived, some struggled. A few asked humanity for guidance or assistance and were surprised to receive helpful advice with no strings attached. The human ships eventually left, just as Director Chen had promised. They had places to go, new galaxies to explore, horizons that stretched beyond anything the old council had ever imagined. In the history books that would be written centuries later, scholars would mark this as the moment when the galaxy truly began to grow up, when civilizations learned they could reach for the stars without stepping on their neighbors. And in the vast darkness between galaxies, human ships continued their journey outward, carrying the dreams of a species that had looked at the word impossible and decided it was merely a suggestion.